All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we have a Houston Rocket video. We're going to go ahead and recap last night's game, but we're going to have an emphasis on Kevin Porter Jr. as he is getting it going. He is definitely catching his groove. Welcome back to the channel, though, guys. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are trying to hit 9,000 subs by the end of the year. Every like, every comment, it really helps out the algorithm. Hopefully the audio sounds good. I am in a new location right now. We'll be back to normal tomorrow, but hopefully the audio is good. Man, KPJ, he is getting me going. Now, before we talk about last night specifically, I want to say something about the Houston Rockets roster together. I want to talk about Kevin. So the Rockets are 1-11, and they're currently on pace 100% to have the worst record in NBA history. I've been reading Twitter. My comments, my comment section, I really love it because you guys actually watch the games. I feel like so many people on Twitter, so many people in, other YouTube comments talking about the Rockets, they don't really watch this team. And a lot of people just on Twitter, they complain about Steven Silas. They complain about Kevin Porter Jr. not being a point guard. And it's like, I don't think that they're necessarily even really watching these games. If the Houston Rockets were to go on a 4-game winning streak, much like Oklahoma City is on right now, everything would be fine. Like, literally. Imagine if the Rockets win the next 4 games, if the Rockets win the next 3 games, we have a totally different narrative. So we're 12 games into the season. Don't get too into it. Don't get too upset. This is one of the youngest teams the Rockets have ever had. It's one of the youngest teams in the NBA, if not the youngest team in the NBA. And they're only 12 games in. Right now, the emphasis is on playing veterans with the young guys to help get the younger players in their groove, get that momentum. So once all the oldies, the veterans get traded at the trade deadline, that the rookies, they're comfortable enough to win basketball games. Their confidence is high. They just had good mentorship from guys like Eric Gordon, Daniel House Jr., and now it's time for them to feast. And that brings me into Kevin Porter Jr. because every single game I check Twitter, Kevin Porter Jr., not a point guard. He's not a point guard. We need a new point guard. Put DJ Augustine in the starting lineup. He's not a point guard. He's not a point guard. Kevin Porter Jr. has played, 30 games at point guard? This man plays small forward and shooting guard for his entire career. And now he's played, honestly, he played 20 games for the Rockets last year. How many of them were at point guard? Let's say 10. He's literally over 25 games into playing point guard for the first time in his career. And for some reason, we're complaining about nights like 18, 5, and 5. It doesn't make sense. Kevin Porter Jr., if he gets his turnovers down, no one's complaining about his capabilities of point guard. The issue with Kevin Porter Jr. right now is his shooting and inefficiency. It's just honestly the inefficiency. So you look at his shooting splits, he's shooting 38% from the field, he's shooting 30% from downtown. That's not good. That's not good, right? It's getting better. Last night, very good. 7 of 14 from the field, 50%. 1 of 4 from downtown, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Only 29 minutes. On the season, he's not really averaging anything too crazy. 13.3 points, 4.2 rebounds, 5.2 assists. He is averaging a career high in steals at 1.3, but he's also averaging a career high in turnovers at 4.3. So let's say Kevin drops that by 1. And gets his other statistics up by, let's say, 2. So we're talking Kevin Porter Jr. If Kevin was averaging 15 points per game, 4 rebounds, let's say 6 assists, and only 3.3 turnovers, Twitter wouldn't be going at him. They wouldn't be going at him. They would be saying exactly what Damian Lillard is saying. This is what Damian Lillard had to say yesterday after the game. The talent level is through the roof. He can do everything. And personally, he's one of my favorite young players in the league. That's it right there. That's what we're talking about. We're 12 games into the season, guys. Have faith in Kevin Porter Jr. He didn't drop 17-6 last season by coincidence. He did not. So, take it easy and trust the process. Trust Kevin Porter Jr. Give him the season at the very, very least. because I'm not complaining about 18-5-5 every single night. Now, as a team last night, they shot 40%. They shot 22% from downtown. They had 13 turnovers. It wasn't their game. I mean, it wasn't their game. They struggled in the second quarter. They struggled in the third quarter. They started strong. They ended strong. And that just kind of how the Rockets have been for the last year at least. I mean, you start strong, you end strong, but in the middle, there's just too much either. It's usually what it comes down to is lack of scoring. That's usually what it comes down to. And KPJ, he was the high scorer last night. You had guys like Jalen Green continue to struggle. Only 9 points for him last night, 9.6 rebounds, 3 of 9 from the field. What I did like from Jalen last night, he was 50% from downtown. And the 1-3 he made was a great play drawn by Steven Silas, which gave Jalen a good look at 3 on an inbounds play. So that's good news. Also, Jae'Sean Tate's continuing to ball. I mean, he's just continuing to ball, and you really see it on defense. And what I've noticed, actually, is if you are not watching the actual games themselves, you probably don't know Jae'Sean Tate is having a great season. I mean, statistically, he's averaging 11.8 and 6.8 rebounds. So you can see he's definitely not struggling statistically. But, I mean, last night, like 14.6 rebounds. He had a good game statistically, 1 steal. But, man, I mean, he drew like 3 charges right away. Like, this guy defensively does so many things that just don't show up on highlight reels every single night. Like, not all of his plays are going to show up on the highlight reel because he's not really a big known player. And he does a lot of the small things that maybe just get overlooked. But when I see a guy like Jae'Sean Tate actually, like with my eyes, when I use the eye test on Jae'Sean Tate, especially the last 7 games of the season, the last 5 games especially, I mean, Jae'Sean is impressing me. He is definitely impressing me. Christian Wood, he's struggling offensively right now, man. 4-15 for him last night, 0-6 from downtown, only 8 points. The good news with Christian Wood is he's getting rebounds. He's averaging 12 rebounds this season, which is a great sign. Daniel Theis also, he's been playing pretty solid. I actually kind of like Danuel House Jr. I know he hasn't really been playing too great, but I still like him. I like what he's been. I just like Danuel House Jr., and it's totally nostalgic. It's not really like a skill or value level. Alfred Sengun continues his impressive rookie season, 12 points, 4 rebounds for him last night. Eric Gordon was struggling from the field. Josh Christopher saw 2 minutes, unfortunately, but KJ, thankfully, he's starting to see a little bit more minutes. He saw 14 last night, made the most of it. I thought he did a really good job last night. 6 points, 2 of 4, 1 of 1 from downtown. One final thing I want to mention about the starting lineup is if you look at the plus minuses, Kevin Porter Jr. and Daniel Theis, KPJ was a +9, Theis +6, Jalen Green -18, Christian Wood -9, Jae'Sean Tate -1. So Kevin Porter Jr., just give him time. I promise you he is going to be a stud. He already is a stud. So, guys, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. I know Rockets games, they might not be your favorite thing to watch right now, but everyone who is and everyone who's watching these videos, I appreciate all y'all. Y'all guys keep me going. Follow my Twitter, Will_Upton. The link's in the bio as well. That's it for me, guys. Peace.